Welcome back to Sparkle on Substack, the podcast with me, Claire Venus. It is nighttime and it has been a military operation as usual. When I get to speak to Leonie, it is the nicest thing, but the time zones are like bonkers. So I have orchestrated a whole big thing. My kids are out, they're staying out tonight, and it's 9:30 here. Leonie's just waking up, and so I'm just going to introduce them and let them tell you about who they are in the world. And we're going to get into talking about books. We want to be very niche today, so I'm excited about that. This is a follow-on podcast from the first podcast that we did together a year ago. This podcast has since had 24,000 downloads, which blows my mind. Leonie was generous enough to come on as my first guest, and I was super nervous. It was like the middle of the night or the middle of the morning, I can't remember, but it was beautiful to do. And then it felt like a real moment to be able to kind of circle back and then do something more specific and more niche. So thank you for being here, Leonie.
Oh, I love you, Claire. Anytime, my queen. I'll just come to the drop of a hat.
Oh, so nice. So for anyone who is just finding this podcast and finding you and finding your work, could you tell us a bit about who you are in the world and what you do?
Sure. I am somebody who talks a lot of shit on the internet. I write books, and they've been used by over 500,000 people worldwide, which is amazing. And I also do a whole bunch of business courses and life courses, and I bundle them all together into something called the Brilliant Business Life Academy, where you can get all my stuff at a ridiculously cheap price. And we have over 5,000 members, and it's the most fun ever.
Amazing. So 5,000 members. I am one of them and have been for a little while now. So I first discovered Leonie in 2020 at the very start of the pandemic, which was awesome timing. Like it couldn't have been any better timing to have this anchor. And so I've stayed connected to Leonie's courses. And just as I've tried to kind of grow my business and better understand what I can do within the membership and how I can show up and not completely burn myself out, it's just been a godsend. It's been incredible to just go, okay, I'm feeling a little bit flat today. I'm feeling a bit like the internet is very internety. I'm going to go into the academy and I'm going to find something. So the last thing that I watched was actually nothing to do with business. And this is the really brilliant thing. So it was Procreate tutorials, so drawing tutorials. And I was like, this is so soothing. Like, I'm just going to watch this. This is so nice. Now I might get the iPad and the Apple Pencil, but really it was just for me. It was just this lovely little gift. And the one before that was a similar thing. So it was about managing neurodivergence. And I bought a robot Hoover after that. I bought a
Mm,
robot Hoover and it's amazing. It's changed my life.
right?
It's
I'm
just like a
so
little
proud of
guy,
you.
and he just literally moves around the house, and I'm like, that's done. And I don't think about it, I don't see it. Like, and I work at home all the time. So this has been absolutely life-changing. It was £99, which if you're listening anywhere else in the world, put that in an XE currency converter, but that is ridiculously cheap for any Hoover. I don't care whose brand it is. So cheap and it's so amazing. So anyway, that's been good. But in the business part of the world, part of what you have are these wonderful books. I have one of them here. This is vintage 2021, and it is so full. Like I just filled it all in and did all the things and had a wonderful time with it. And then now what I do is I download a PDF and I send it off to a printer and it comes through the post. So it's all black and white. It doesn't have these beautiful colors. I just do it all in black and white and then I put the color on there. So that's how I use them now. So I'd just love to know a little bit about the journey to getting something like this out in the world, Leonie. Like, how did this come about? How did you decide to do it? Were people asking for it? Did you just have a lightning bolt? What happened with it?
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. So 2009, Christmas of 2009, I was pregnant with my first child, and I really wanted to um, set myself some goals for the year ahead. Sort of like I felt like, I was going to have a baby and stuff like that. And I just wanted like something to hold on to when the seas got rough internally. And I looked around and there really wasn't anything out there on the market that was at all colorful, that was more feminine, that encapsulated like all areas of life and creativity and health and spiritual wellness and all those areas. Anything that was out there was very, very sort of black and white, masculine, more just about career and money. And there really wasn't anything else out there. So 2009, like this is like there's much more available out now. And I know like when I've talked to Hay House, they were like, oh, like we kind of see you as somebody who's helped like create that change in terms of like the amount of planners available and like the amount of like goal focused stuff out there, which just thrills me. But at that point I was like, okay, well, I'll just make myself something because there wasn't anything out there. And as I was just happily painting and drawing away, I was like, oh, this is really cute. Maybe I could just like put it online and just like sell it as a PDF. And I had a blog at that point and like a business as like, online business. And I so I put it up on the internet and I thought it'd be really cute if like 10 people bought it and for $10 and loved it and we could do our goals together. And it sort of just went quite like viral for me at the time. So I ended up selling 1,000 PDFs in the next couple of weeks. And people were just kind of like, oh my God, because there was just really nothing out there. And people loved it so much that like the next year, like those people, like they all bought again and they, kind of got their friends to do it as well. So for the first few years, I just sold by PDF because that's all I had like the capacity to. And also there really wasn't that much print on demand available at that point. And then I started doing print on demand and kind of moving into that evolution of the journey. And so now it's been like 500,000 people worldwide have used it, which is amazing and very, very cool.
It's so, so cool. And just to think of you going, this is something that I think will be of service to me. And like, cool, if 10 more people want to use it. And then isn't that always the way that all of a sudden it's like, oh, a lot more than 10 people were interested in this and unlocking what it could mean for them. And then the thing I like about it as well is it's like it holds me through the whole year. So even if I've missed a couple of months, which happens, I can circle back and the format and just the pages, the way that they're designed just really work. It's like, okay, like I know where I am with this. Like these questions are leading me in. Like it's black and white. I write it down. I see it reflected back and then it's done. Like it doesn't take a long time to fill in those bits and bobs and be able to reflect on where you've been and where you're going. I really love it. It's such an anchor.
I'm just so happy to hear you say that. And it's the same for me. Like it's just I feel like so much of my business and the goodness in my life has been crafted from just the reflection work that I've done in the workbooks each year because I still just use them for myself.
Yeah, and you work through that process. Yeah, I got a bit obsessed for a while with like different types of journal and like finding the journal and then self-published one in 2020 that was called Creativity Island for Mums. So that was like a real niche book project, 100 copies. I sent them like out from home, put a little tea bag in there and a handwritten note and loads of sprinkles. And it was just such a beautiful thing to be able to say, I see you, like I see you in the postpartum period, in the pandemic, it's rough, like I'm here. So that was all focused around creativity and wellness and really leading people into, yes, they could record like bits of their day and memories and stuff, but it was really about making art like through that and trying to find ways to stitch together the intensity of what we were all going through within the motherhood, within the pandemic, the two things together. So that was like a really beautiful thing to do. And the process stalled when I thought about putting it on Amazon on print on demand. I was like, I think it was just this one thing. Like, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot or like not give it any more airtime, but I do still feel very like it was just this one thing. So I have since reprinted it and sold some more. But again, similar thing, like a local bookshop stocks it. And then if anybody asks, I'm like, sure, I'll send you one out. Like, here's the Stripe link. So it's not really gone to that place where it's been scalable. And then this one, my new book, is on Kickstarter, right? So we are running a Kickstarter campaign for how to build a world-class Substack. I'm holding it up if you're watching the video version. which is co-authored with Russell Nohelty. And I've never run a Kickstarter campaign before. We're already at $11,000 on the Kickstarter. It was funded by the time it got to $1,000. So we're like 10 grand over, which is awesome. And again, just a completely different way to publish. You know, the book's done, it's finished, and people will get their books once the campaign finishes, but people can keep buying it through the campaign. So yeah, so it's been like, okay, like there's another way to make a book come into the world. And I just think it's so interesting, isn't it? Like what we decide to do, what we decide to not do. Like obviously there's the traditionally published route as well. Like I wonder if anyone has come to you and said, like, can I help you kind of buy the rights, like how any of that stuff's worked with the Goal workbooks?
Yeah, it has. So we did. So I did Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing for ages, and then I was feeling frustrated by some of the limitations of it because I wanted to do spiral bound and kind of have extra stuff in there, and I wanted to do a companion diary and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought the next step would be to print our own through a big printing house in China, and it was an enormous cost. It ended up being, I think, nearly $500,000 just because the amount that we sell. And then we had distribution houses in the UK, the US, and Australia because we're worldwide in terms of how much we were selling. And then, the whole, selling 80,000 packages or whatever in the space of a few months meant that we had to have a really large customer service team and logistics manager, all that kind of stuff. So it just ended up being quite an enormous operation. I had about 20-ish staff. And so we did that for a few years, and it was really fascinating and very hectic as well, to scale it to that level of self-publishing. And I'm grateful for that I got to experience that. And obviously it's an enormous privilege to have a book that's that successful that it becomes that hectic. And then at that point, I was like, I actually this sort of business model doesn't work for me. I don't love having a large team. I don't love having, the huge expenses attached to it and the huge amount of stress attached to it as well, because we had some really crazy experiences. We had a distribution house that just wouldn't send the books and was holding them hostage. And we literally had people in the US, some staff go to they had to hire a truck and go and get the books, and the distribution house wouldn't give them unless we kept giving them more money. And it was literally holding them hostage. And we're like, well, do we have to call the police? What's going on? Because they'd put some of the books on well, we can't give them out, we can't give them out until you give us $3,000. And then an hour later, they're like, well, no, this is costing more than we're expecting, so you have to give us another $2,000. And then, an hour later, it just kept on going out. And this is why I was like, do we have to call the police? This is an insane operation. And then once it finally all got released, the and we were this is just before Christmas. The books were late because this house was the distribution house was not sending them out. And this is a very time sensitive book. People want to be setting their goals in December and January, or what the heck? And people had been so patient, and we were updating the whole way, about the situation and trying to make it right for them, and giving coupons and vouchers and, refunds and all the stuff. And then the people, the staff in the truck then had to go through a snowstorm. It was called Snowmageddon, through America, across the other side of America, to get to our next distribution house. I'm so grateful for them. They thought it would be
Was this
so
a
fun to
movie?
do
Has
it.
this been made into a movie yet? Because
I know.
what is that? That's
It was
insane. Wow.
it was absolutely nuts. And like they like because they were going through Snowmageddon, they had to like I got them to take photos along the way, and then we put it on like um we do an update each day on social media of where the books were now and like the map and like what was happening next. And people were so involved in this fucking thing. Like it was a mission, an absolute mission. Um, so yeah, like an enormous amount of stress. So like the books all got out. I'm very grateful for all of that. And I was also like, I am so exhausted from this process.
So done. Wow.
This is so wild.
Yeah.
So then we went, then I was like, I want to work with a publishing house next. So we swapped back to Kindle Direct Publishing Service while we got like book contracts set up and all that kind of stuff. I went through an American book publishing house called Ben Bella, and we did that for 2 years, I think. And they were great. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting to learn about this side of the process. And uh, at the end of it, I decided I really wanted to go back to Kindle Direct Publishing, like and just self-publishing, because I really like one, having complete control over the creative process, two, full profit, basically.
No, I'm nodding
And-
because, it's a lot. Like when you were describing all of that, like for me, being plugged into more people than I need to be is already exhausting. I'm like, what is the least amount of people that I can be plugged into to make this work? Because I don't know about you, but like I sort of forget what I've said. I'm like, where did I say that? Did we have a call? Was it in an email? Was it in a WhatsApp message? What, like, it's just a lot, isn't it? It's very people-y. And then, like you say, like operations director, just so that people can hold this in their hand, like that, obviously, yeah, that will work. And that is an entrepreneurial thing that you can do, but there are other ways, other simpler ways. So there's that kind of energy that is feeding itself that becomes a monster that then just when you're at the sort of the center of it, the fulcrum of it, you're like, oh no, like turn off the lights. Like it's too much. Wow. But I mean, amazing to have experienced it and to know what that is and to know,
Mm,
okay, like we did that and that was fine. Maybe,
mm.
might want to do it again, but I mean, maybe someone might talk it out of it if we wanted to do it again. I don't know. Wow.
They absolutely would. Absolutely would. It's interesting because like Passion Planner came out a couple of years after mine, I think. And like I'm so in awe of what they've been able to create and what the founders been able to create. And also like I've seen like, some of the like logistics difficulties they've had along the way. Like I think they've just had to go through the process of like they had a distribution house that wasn't actually doing what they said they were doing, and there
Mm,
was like packages were like months behind, um and they've had to kind of clean up the mess. And then I remember also like another like distribution kerfuffle, and they ended up losing a stack of money because they needed to like upgrade everyone to first class shipping because everything
yeah.
was so late. And I've watched their journey on and like unfold and been like in awe that they've been able to stick with it, because I'm like, oh yeah, that would have killed me. Like that's
Yeah.
too much for me. Too much for me to
Yeah.
manage, bro.
And but then there's a different way, right? So this is the beautiful thing with publishing and books. Like there's a million different ways, probably not a
Mm.
million. There's a lot of ways that we can make a book be in someone's hands. Like we've got that power now. It's a really beautiful thing. So I
Mhm.
feel like last year I just went on and there were some options and I just downloaded it and then obviously sent it to print. So I think that's in the UK. So that was like maybe the most cost efficient way to do it or something like
Yeah.
that. I feel like that's what happened, and I got it printed A4 size, so it was like lovely and big. So that was just nice, it was like that's what I want, and then I just bound it myself, or maybe they bound it for me. No, I think I did get them to bind it, and then I bought one for one of my neighbors, which was more like the life one. So
Mm.
when I got that one, and I was like, I wanted to send it to her, the teenager down the road. She's so lovely, and I was like, I think you'll be really into this. She's neurodivergent too. And I was like, I think you'll be really into this. Like, I'd love to chat to you about it. We've not chatted yet. It's probably still on our bedroom floor somewhere. But this time we can connect again. So yeah, so that really felt really nice to do, to have that creative control of going, I want to have it A4 size. I'm gonna like bind it this way or whatever. And that feels like very connected to who you are as a person and how you hold us members and how you kind of market what's possible for us. So yeah, that felt really nice. I don't know whether you want to stick with that way of doing it or you've thought about other ways of doing it. If it's coming again this year, I hope it is.
Oh, of course. So I mean, we have like an undated version now, so people can always
Yeah.
buy it. But we'll release a 2025 dated version for people who want it as well, which will be really fun. It'll always just be there, I think. I think
Yeah.
it's always just, going to be there making stuff, making its little magic happen. I think there'll be a revolt if I don't produce it, and there'll be a revolt from me because I still use it. I still
Yeah.
need to have one printed.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really beautiful. We have like in an ideal world, I'd love to have a print on demand printer that would be able to do some more customization. So you've got one that's spiral bound, and that was a special edition year because we used a different print on demand printer. We used Lulu Express. Sorry, lulu.com. And they had like a Lulu Express function that could go through the shopping carts we used, Shopify.
Mm,
Um, and I was like, yes, we found the perfect option at last. But then they just made so many like printing errors and sending errors that it didn't end up being the right thing. So like 10% of people would have like just like the wrong things sent to them. I don't even know what they're doing with their operations, really. I'm not back here to talk shit about Lulu, except
no.
we like people would get like posters of dragons. Um,
This is
and
all
then
you
like
need. Put this on your wall. That is your goal setting for the year ahead. A photo of a dragon,
exactly.
right?
Never
Yeah.
said. And then like another person got sent like a big framed like wall canvas. It's a poem about a dead husband. And she was like, "Oh, I've never been married, but thank you." And
Thank
like
you so much, universe. What on earth? A mad
yeah, and
twist of
thankfully, like
fate. Yeah.
Lulu were good at fixing their mistakes, as in like they would apologize straight away.
Yeah.
They would send out another one first class mail, like they would make it right. But I just the amount of errors they made, it was like that no,
It's
no, because
really funny to think about as well, because you just wonder if there was like a renegade staff member who was like, what are we going to choose today? Just having a whale of a time, high on life or something else, just like literally losing the plot, being like, this is so funny. I'm sending this out in the post. I just can't imagine any other way that that could happen, unless someone's consciously gone, this is going to be hilarious.
you were right. You were right. There's surely no other way because the stuff that was going out was just
Just
insane,
off the wall, yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness me. So anyway, so you can get the undated version of the workbook. You can have a look online, obviously follow Leonie, and it'll be on the website. It'll be all there, however you want to do it, however you want to print it, whichever one you're going to get, that's all going to be there. I also wanted to just quiz you a bit on the course that I have not done in the academy, which is 40 days to a finished book, because that sounds wild and really exciting. And I'm like, I can't wait to be like, okay, I'm going in, but it's like, it's not now. It's like soon, maybe next year, maybe the year after. And this is what I love about the academy, because I've had to really prioritize as business is like taken off, and I've had to like learn some tricky things. So there's this course in the academy. You hold people through this 40-day plan, and I did a version of that but for an e-course, right? So that was and the most incredible experience, because it's only 40 days, right? You can almost do a countdown calendar. So as I was kind of getting my head around the world of e-courses and what I wanted to do and all of the different components that go into hosting courses, I was being held in this way to kind of understand and do it and tick things off. So with the book, obviously everybody's got a completely different creative process. Some people are like, nobody disturb me, I'm going to a cave for 3 months. Other people are like, this is my life's work, I'll be on 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Other people are like, give me all the post-its, like I'm going to need the post-its. Other people are like, I'm going to go and research things. So how do we like go within that parameter of 40 days and just get to a place where the book feels nearly finished, actually finished? Like, what is that like?
so for me, through kind of all of my sort of creative process, and then also just like working with thousands and thousands of creatives who've gone through that course now, is that often we just have like really large misconceptions about how books are written. We think that we need to work on them full time and that it would take a year of full-time work to get a book done. And for the vast majority of books, that is absolutely not the case. And you can write one in much less time, in a much like in smaller chunks of hours. And so much of time, people spend more time thinking about writing a book than actually writing the book. When you actually just write the book, it's a very simple process. It doesn't take that long. When you look at a book, if you're writing a novella, it's 10,000 words. If you're writing, kind of a mid-range book, it's 50,000 words, maybe up to 80,000 words. When you're moving into like more kind of thicker edge stuff, it's 100,000 words. All of that is manageable in a shorter period of time. And if you give yourself a year to write a book, you're probably going to, like, at the end of the day, not have the book written. I mean, you've just got a book created and you started talking about it in what, like a few months ago, basically.
Yeah, February. So February and now it's July, but it's been finished since May. So yeah. And that was like a whole thing around co-authoring, but also I had to have a bit of time off writing it for some personal stuff. So it was like that was all still okay, and we still made the timeline and we still did the deadline. Like it just all happened. But it's really interesting that you should say that, because when Russell first approached me to do the book, I was like, whew, okay, how long's a book? And he's like, well, I couldn't possibly tell you. Like, we're just going to go in and we're going to see. He said, but I do know that you've probably written most of it already on your Substack. So I was like, yeah, but those are posts. And he was like, mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. So then there was one in particular that stood out. And I was like, I'm going to just put that in a Word document, because I write directly into Substack. I put it in a Word document and it was 7,500 words.
Mhm.
What? Like, so all of those words that I have been writing over the last year on Sparkle and then over 2 years on Creatively Conscious, like there are multiple books within those posts, within those blog posts. And so when Russell pointed that out, I was like, oh, so there's a big light bulb moment around that is a piece that's written, and that might become something else that is a chapter in the book. It might not, but that was like, oh, this is easy. This is so easy. So I don't know whether that's similar to some of the stuff that you teach within that course, but I'd absolutely never considered that until February when he told me that. He was like, how long do you think those put? I was like, oh, I don't know. Don't know how long. I don't know how many words they are. Because I had in my head, well, a book is like you say, 60 to 80,000 words. It's going to take some time. I'm going to probably have to go and stay in a hotel for a week. Like I just had all of these mad misconceptions about how it was going to happen. But
Mm.
no, none of that.
No, like, I mean, yes, we have like, there's for some people, content's already pre-created because of the work they've done. And you can also, like, if you've got podcast episodes, you can get them transcribed. If you've got like courses, you can have them transcribed. Like there's for people who already have a content body of work, then you have a head start, but it's not necessary in order to do the 40 days. Really, it's like I had just having the commitment, like every single day I am going to write, like having a goal of, 100 words for people who are just starting out. Sometimes people who are really blocked, I'm like, I just need a sentence. That's all I need. We just need some momentum here. We can build up. And then, for me, like I had to write a really big like business manual of stuff. And so I set myself a goal of 3,000 words before the sunset every day. And I also had hyperemesis gravidarum at the time, which is a very chronic pregnancy illness. So I'd be really unwell all morning, and then in the afternoon I would be just good enough to, raise my head and spend a little bit of time with my kid. And then I'd go into my office to get a bit of work done. And I'd still need to like get up and go outside and vomit during that time. But it's fine. The sun was setting, just needed to write some stuff down. And so I managed to do, I think it was like 40,000 words in the space of a few weeks for that project. Just from like, because like 3,000 words a day, that's only like, what, 15 days, maybe?
Yeah.
Like it's like when you're at like when you're like it's pretty easy to start accruing a whole bunch of words when you have that daily practice.
Mm.
And it can be built around the corners of your life. It doesn't have to be a full-time thing. Like I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who can write for 8 hours a day.
Mm.
Even like professional authors are usually only writing for like 3 hours or 4 hours maximum a day. Um, and yeah, it can be done in much less time. I've had people who even like they are caring for somebody in hospital and they're like living in the hospital and they've been able to do their book. And they said to me, like, Leonie, I thought it'd be impossible, but it ended up just being such a beautiful, like ritual for me to like connect in with myself and something to do during all of the boring hours of waiting for tests and things like that. And so it ended up being enormously healing for them as well to go through that. So, like when I wrote the novella, I think I gave myself maybe 5 days to have it done, and it just ended up being such a fun little gift to create. Um, and
I remember obviously because you were doing the live calls for Money Manifesting Multiple Streams of Income, and then you were telling us, I'm writing a novella. I think that was the order, or maybe it was in the office hours or whatever afterwards, but you were like, I'm writing this novella. And I was like, wait, what? Like it was like this other version of you because it's a different space holding, right? You're holding space for yourself. You're like, I just really want to do this. Like, I'm just so in it, and I could see that. And it was like, I just feel like we were all in massive awe and like massive respect of you just taking yourself into this portal, this place that you wanted to spend time in. And then the novella appeared. It was like, here it is, guys. It's like, all right, yeah, there it is. So that was really beautiful. I think around that time, I was really feeling into that place of like creative process being around this kind of opportunity to self-soothe a little bit. And writing has definitely been that for me. So when I first came to blogging on Substack, it was because Dave was really chronically ill and it was very intense. Luna was very small, my daughter, and it was like, oh, my goodness, like I just need a place for my words. Like I just need to put them on a page somewhere. And in that space, in the early mornings, it was fairy lights on, doing some writing, I was completely lost. I was still in the life that I was in, but I was lost in the fairy tale of it. It was like it was all okay because it was a fairy tale, because I was writing about it and I was seeing that writing reflected back. And it was an escape in lots of ways. So there was something really beautiful about being called to do that. And then the process moves on, right? Our creative processes move on. We want to write about other things, like other things crop up. But I remember there was a time postpartum where I would go for a walk and it just felt like I was just receiving words everywhere. Like it would be from the most the vivid green on the tree that I was walking past to the blossom flowing down on top of my daughter's pram. And I was like, wow, this is a trip. Postpartum is a trip. I've got so much to say about it. So some of that is super interesting as well when we choose, and these creative parameters that we can put around. And then when we're in it and when we're committed to it, anything can happen, can't it? It's just that kind of commitment and that working out what works for us and what is personal to us with our creative process.
it's like delicious, right? It's like when you open your eyes up to the stories and the meanings of everything that's happening around us, it just makes it everything like one, we're practicing so much mindfulness, but then we're just witnessing so much magic too.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing to get to be creative and to witness all the miracles here in this world.
It's so true. I wonder if it feels different for you when you're writing something for a book, or it's more about coming to the writing and then seeing where the writing asks to go. Is the intention different? Does it feel different? Can you be more open, more vulnerable, more? Or is it the same? Is it same whichever platform you're publishing on or writing on? How's it work?
Mm. For me, I always find that I'm able to go deeper in blogs than social media. I'm not a very good short form writer. It's just not my vibe. Um, and so like social media just doesn't feel like the best fit for my work. So those longer posts have always just been a touchstone for me. But in a lot of ways, like the medium probably doesn't matter as much, whether it's a book or a blog post or something that's just going to go in my personal diary. I feel like there's always the writer in me that's dictating stuff. And I don't know if other people do it, but like as I'm seeing things happen, or at the end of the day where I'm going to sleep, my brain just automatically starts writing it into words and writing it into a story and uh, choosing like the turns of phrases, and whether I write it down or not is irrelevant. It's just this meaning making and wanting to turn all of that experience into some kinds of words. So I am grateful for that kind of like lifelong process. I don't know if it's something that I've intentionally created for myself. It's just the narrator part of my brain, basically.
Love that. That is so special. I wonder who relates. Like, I just know people listening, they'll be like, oh, me too, you know? So those places that when we put our head on the pillow or when we're in that flow state in another way, whether that's gardening or driving or like wherever we are, and those sentences are appearing and those phrases are coming to us, and then maybe there's a song and then we're like, wait, stop the car, I need to write this down. Like, this is what people will say to me because I never remember it, so they're like, you need to stop the car then, pull over and write the stuff down. I'm like, maybe it's just this conversation with the universe, with me, like as part of that, and then this moment, and then maybe it's okay that I lose it. But so many times I'm like, that's it, that's it now, like I've got it, like the thing, I've figured it all out, and then I'm like, wait, what's that again? It's gone. So it could come back again, I suppose. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be open to, isn't it? And just kind of dance with it and see what happens.
Mm. And like I feel like when I finally do get to, the desk to write, I feel like it's mostly just about taking dictation, really. And it's sort of the dictation of what's already been pre-written in my head because
Mm.
it's already been typed up in my head. And I'm just like, got to get it out. And then it just feels like some things just land and it's not really from me. Sometimes I reread my work and I'm like, I don't even recognize that it's my own writing. I remember a friend shared a post on her social media, like reshared it. It was something that she'd shared like a few years before. I was reading it. I was like, oh my God, this is so hectic, so intense. I feel this. Yes.
Mm.
And I got to the end and realized it was me. Like I'd written the post and she'd copied and pasted because it had meant so much to her. And I had
Oh,
just no recollection that it was my own writing. I
that
just
was
thought, this is great.
I absolutely love that. I do read over my older work. Like, I've done it in a way to heal. So I've done it to be less critical and less worried about grammar and spelling and perfectionism and all of that sort of stuff. And there's something really interesting, and I don't know whether you'll at all relate to this, but there's something where I have had a smaller audience where my voice is more confident than maybe when I do it now with a bigger audience, even though I've got more social proof, more people that have said, wow, like I really resonated, more comments, more people, more noise. There's something in that earlier writing that's like fire that I'm like, do I still write like that? Like I'm questioning it, right? I'm just like, do I still write like that? Is that still there? Like, has that morphed into something else? Have I curated it more? Have I become more palatable, or, strip things down a bit so that they're less waffly? Because sometimes a waffle can be like a really good waffle.
Mhm.
There's just like so many different ways with your writing craft. And obviously I'm nuts about Substack. I absolutely love it as a platform. I love reading other people's work. I've met some really great friends there, colleagues. There are some incredible writers on the platform, but I was never once threatened by them because I wasn't trying to be them. So I was just like, let's just write. Let's all just have some self-expression. My goodness, like we need that after all these years of questioning in our voice, or questioning if we're allowed to, or questioning if this needs to fit into however many characters on social media. Let's just let it all flow out. So yeah, I do think there's something really interesting in that past self, isn't there? And like connecting to that, and like what version of us that was, like version before
Mm.
kids, or a version that and hadn't had like some internet trolls, for example, those things.
That's definitely a big one. Like I think when I like look back at past selves, one, there's like definitely like an innocence there, which I'm so grateful for. There's definitely like some like a lack of boundaries that I do have now. Like I used to talk quite a lot more about my husband and my children, and their like my relationship with them and my experiences with them, and now I don't really do that at all because I want them to have their own experience of life and like craft their own story. And also I have a teenager now who um had her first Digitech class a couple of years ago, and they got her to Google her own name, and like as part of a cybersecurity thing. And so all of the kids had to do it in their class. And as soon as she told me, I was like, oh no. And she was like, yes, mum. Yes. There was literally pages of results. Um, and like, so she found my birth story with her, including like all of the birth pictures, and like this is in class, and just like all of like just like her early toddler years. I stopped blogging about my kids like when she turned like 3 or 4, I think. And so she couldn't find much after that, but there was a vast quantity of stuff. And she was like, Mother. And I was like, I am so, so sorry. I'm so, so sorry. And so having to like go through that and explain like that I was a mummy blogger for a kind of a mummy blogger. Um, for a while there. And then, I did an internet cleanse after that to remove all names of her, remove all mention of her of the internet. Um, because she doesn't want it on there. She's 14 years old. She already has some boys in her class that follow me on social media because they think it's funny that her mum's like an influencer kind of thing. So I need to give like as least ammunition for my teenage daughter as possible. So I don't really cover those parts anymore, and that's totally groovy. It's just a change in things. And like you mentioned, internet trolls, like that's definitely been a big um the yeah, like I did have a phase of having like some fairly rabid internet trolls who were just obsessed with me for whatever reason. It's kind of a long time ago now, but there's definitely more of a monitor now in terms of what I'm going to share publicly and what I'm emotionally ready to receive feedback on or trolling on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is so wise. And I was just talking to a friend actually. We went and had like a bit of a business get together, like a lovely hotel, lovely massage and dinner and stuff last night. So we were together, and she's in the academy too. And we were just talking about that mummy blogger era because she had that, right? So she was in that space and built a profile around that. And then now she has a book coming out in the world. It's called How to Divorce Sober. It's coming out in September, which is very exciting. Very proud of Hannah. And we were talking about that space that we were in, we were both in. So I didn't have a big social media account, but it felt like there was a portal to want to connect with other women, right? To connect over birth story stuff, to like share things, to be able to sit in circle at any time of the day or night, whoever you were connecting with. And it's something that we were dancing with around feeling safe in ourselves, but feeling safe on the internet. And it was all so shiny and new. And it's almost like we learn everything so quickly. And then we were like, oh, we get it now, but we kind of had to do that stuff and work it all out to know to know it, you know, to know how we felt about it. And now also in that self-expression and that being witnessed, it's been very healing for the female line, you know.
Mm,
So we were kind of saying it kind of had to happen in a way. And obviously, yes, we want to protect our kids and make sure everyone feels fine and safe. And there's been some really great examples of how people have really modeled that and gone, you know what, like this was me with my baby, but now the baby isn't even part of it. And these are the reasons I felt it was important to be in that space, but now this is how I feel, you know. And then having that reflected back, we understand more about how we might feel, because we're all influenced by each other all the time, aren't we? And we're kind of going, how do we feel safe in the world? How is it safe to show up? How is it safe to have a book and then know, you know, that it's okay to go on the reviews wherever they might exist or not? Maybe we don't want to look at them, you know. So yeah, there is definitely something in that feeling safe and feeling able to be witnessed in the storytelling, whatever the story is, I think, isn't there? And
mm,
then the child that pipes up. You know, my son is like, how many on YouTube now, Mum? You know, he's like massively into it. And I'm just like totally playing it down. And I think there's an excitement there, right? Because of the possibility. And I'm like, I want to have more conversations with him. I want to understand what it is, but I also know the rest. So
mm,
yeah, it's
mm,
just, it's a time, isn't it? It's like a specific time and a specific exchange between you and your kids. And then as they grow up, it changes.
mm. I think like so Lucy Knisley, the graphic artist, one thing that she did that I think is super smart. She shares about her kid, but one, she doesn't use his real name on the internet. So when people ever like Google his name, like in like for job interviews and things like that, it's not like easy to be connected. So she calls him Pal on the internet, and that's not his name. And I think that's genius. I think that's such a good idea. And two, I don't think she really shares like photos of him per se. She does drawings of him, which is super clever. And yeah, I think that's like really like clever ways to continue to like share your story without while still respecting, you know, your children's privacy. And then like there's a whole other thing, of course, like with people who are like YouTube family vloggers. I think that's a whole other level of difficult hell that is problematic.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so much, isn't there? So much. And I do think we have to slow ourselves down. That's the medicine, isn't it? That's the like, okay, like let's slow ourselves down, turn the internet off for a bit, and then realign with what is going to feel really good now, but then what's going to feel good in some time, in some years and stuff like that,
Mm,
and how that all feels. Because yeah, there's space for it all, but we're all still figuring it out together. And I think, you know, being able to go to sleep in the evening and know, okay, whatever I published or whatever is, I'll do this where I'll schedule things at 3 a.m. because it's like a decent time in America. And I've got quite a lot of American subscribers. So I'm like, yeah, oh, it's a post. No, it's fine. You know, that thing.
mm.
So I feel like within that space, it's something that we can just model for each other and say it's okay that you still feel anxious and nervous about simply sharing your voice. And then within that, you're going to have to work out what parts and how we all do it, like how we are on the internet, but we still like protect ourselves and write the things that we want to write and do video if we want to do video and don't if we don't want to do it, sort of thing.
Exactly, exactly. There's still ways to create and share. And just because I have like parameters around like the family stuff now, um, it I can still share so much, and I can still be vulnerable, and I can still connect in ways that feel really fulfilling to me. So
Yeah, and
it's
I think, you know, we feel very connected to like to you, to other people who have just like let us in. It's not about detail, is it? It's just about
mm,
someone being a human and yeah, maybe being a human and not AI or something. I don't know. It's like it's literally as simple as that. It's like there's the human, like there's the exchange of biology. Like I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it like also makes me laugh for like the times that I'm just feeling super raw. Like um I remember like making this video. being like, oh my God, it just feels like the veils between worlds are very close. And like I just drew a map of like where all of the people who are like that I know and love who are dead and where they live like now in cemeteries and things like that. And the veil between worlds feels super thin. And then the next day I was like, oh no, guys, it was just my period was coming. Like I was feeling super emo.
I just temporarily went emo and thought this
That's
was what I
right.
was
I was
going to create in the world
like,
now. Oh, absolutely love that. Oh, it's been so amazing to catch up, Leonie. I've just loved hearing a little bit more about this process that you have with the goal workbooks and the novella, and then obviously there's that course that people can jump into. Like if anybody's thinking about doing it, like please leave a comment, because I am so up for it, but I just need to schedule it in, and I do need the accountability. I love the accountability. So if anyone's listening thinking I want to do 40 days to a finished book, then I'm with you. I'm ready for it. Where can people find you online, Leonie? Where can people find your stuff?
Best place is always leoniedawson.com. I have a free shit page as well. So, like, just all the stuff that I've made over the years that you can grab for free. And then I'm on the socials as well, Leonie Dawson. You can find me there. But mostly I'll be out in just like the rainbow world, dancing with unicorns, having a great life.
Look out for Leonie's photo shoots. They're always an absolute treat. Thank you, Leonie. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I love you, Claire, and congratulations on your book. You are an absolute genius.
Thank you.